everyone, I'm healthyhabitswithtrish.com. With Thanksgiving in Canada right around the corner and the States not too long after, today on Let's Eat Healthy, we're gonna make a vegan pecan pie with homemade vegan whipped topping. With only 9 simple ingredients, we're gonna whip up a healthier version of this pie that your entire family will love. If you love pecan pie, that is. No refined sugar, no eggs, and most importantly, no corn syrup, making my mouth water as I speak. With that said, see you in the kitchen. Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Eat Healthy. Today we're going to be making a vegan pecan pie with a homemade vegan whipped topping. Now there's 3 components to this pie: the crust, the filling, and the whipped topping. So let's get started with the ingredients for the crust. You're going to need 3/4 cups of pecans, 3/4 cups of walnuts, 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan salt, 1/4 cup of unsweetened coconut, and 1 cup of organic pitted dates. Now that's what you need for the ingredients for the crust. Let's move on to the filling. All right, let's get started with our filling ingredients. You're gonna need 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. I use Mykonos butter. I find that it's a little bit healthier. It uses coconut oil, which is a little higher in saturated fat, but still a better oil than palm oil. So just kind of read your labels. You need 1/4 cup of maple syrup, pure maple syrup. You need 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Another 1.5 cups of pecans. Gonna need 3/4 cups of full fat coconut milk. This has to be chilled. Overnight would be the best, so you might have to kind of plan ahead a little bit. You're gonna need 3 tablespoons of cornstarch or arrowroot powder, 1/2 cup of coconut sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan salt. So those are the ingredients for your filling. Let's move on to the whipped topping. All right, let's move on to our topping ingredients. You're gonna need about 1 can or about 1.5 cups of coconut cream. You can use coconut milk. I would suggest coconut cream. It works way better, chilled as well if possible. You're gonna need 1 teaspoon of pure maple syrup and 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now you're also going to need a regular pie shell, or you can use a spring foam pan like I do. Could just be me being lazy, but I love these pans. They're so great. You can just pop it out and it looks so lovely. So that's the ingredients that you need for your topping. So let's move on to making our recipe. All right, let's get started with our crust. So I have 3/4 cups of pecans, and we're gonna put that into a food processor. And the 3/4 cups of walnuts, as well as the 1/4 cup of unsweetened coconut, and then the 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan salt. So we're gonna let that blend for just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna add our dates. All right, once you've let your nut mixture roughly chop, then we're going to add our 1 cup of organic pitted dates. And we're gonna let that blend a little bit longer because we want the dates to bind everything together. And as soon as we do that, we'll press it into the pan. All right, now we're going to test our crust. So the first thing you wanna do before you take the blade out is I'm actually gonna take a spoonful of this and put it into my hand. And I wanna make sure that I can actually shape it. So that's a nice shape, that means it's good. If yours is not coming out in where you can shape it, feel free to add a little bit of water to the mix of your food processor, maybe 1/8 teaspoon at a time and in small increments until you get this, okay? So it looks good. Next thing we're gonna do is take out the blade very carefully. And we're just going to take our pan, dump it in. Now, if you're using a regular pie pan, this crust might be just a little bit much for it. You can take it up the sides if you'd like. If you're using a big spring foam pan like this, it's most likely just going to cover the bottom of it. And you just want to press it down, make sure it's as even as possible. No holes in it. You want to make a nice bed for your filling to lay on. And it looks good. It's going to look just like that. So now let's work on our filling. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do for our filling is we're going to mix our 3/4 cups of coconut milk and our 3 tablespoons of cornstarch or arrowroot powder. We're going to whisk that together, and you'll see that it kind of thickens almost right away. And once that's blended together, you just don't want lumps from the cornstarch or arrowroot powder. And that'll go well together. Okay, we're gonna set that aside. Now I've got a pan heated on medium-high. The first thing I wanna do is add about 2 tablespoons of that vegan butter. Now, you don't have to have butter when you're toasting pecans. I think it's just nice to have that little bit of buttery taste in this pecan pie. So let's let that melt. Probably just get it good and melted, maybe on medium-high heat, and we'll add the pecans next. All right, so once that butter is melted, we want to add that 1.5 cups of pecans. And we want to toast them for about 30 to 60 seconds. You will need to constantly stir them as well. If you walk away from them, these little buggers will burn, and you can't save burned pecans. And that will ruin your pie, by the way. So we're gonna let that cook for about 30 to 60 seconds. When they're nice and toasty, you can actually just taste one to see actually when it's ready. Okay, so they have gotten toasty brown, probably more like 60 seconds or so, but just taste them when you kind of want that flavor. And once those are ready, we're going to add our 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Want to make sure to get all that goodness. And then we're going to add the 1/2 cup of coconut sugar. I actually usually go a little bit less, just because I try not to consume too much sugar. So I go a little bit less on the sugar. That's totally up to you, what you'd like to do. We're going to add in our 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Also that tiny bit of salt. Blend that well. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add that coconut milk mixture. I'm going to make sure we get all of that. And at this point, if you need to turn your heat back up, you totally can. Just depends on what you're cooking with and how your stovetop cooks. So we just want to get that blended nice. This is your filling, so you kind of almost want a filling texture, but remember it's going to have to sit overnight. So just a couple minutes there. And we'll check that in just a second. Okay, so we've let that blend together, and you'll notice that it does thicken a bit, especially with that cornstarch or arrowroot powder in it. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our pie shell, and we are going to pour all of that into the pie shell. Now, if you're using a regular pie pan, this is probably plenty. If you're going to use a spring foam pan like I'm doing, you can double the filling recipe just to give you a thicker filling. So we just want to blend that around the best that we can and kind of do it quickly. It is thickening a bit just because of the cornstarch. Just blend it around the best that you can. I'll show you what this looks like in just a second. All right. So it's going to basically kind of look like that. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven for approximately 30 minutes. I like to use a baking pan to cook a lot of my food on. This isn't going to cause any spillages or anything, but I still like to do that. So we're going to put that in for 30 minutes. And when you bring it out of the oven, set it on the counter for 2 to 3 hours, then cover it, set it in the fridge for overnight, and I'll see you back when it's done. Welcome back, everyone. So our pecan pie has been sitting in the fridge overnight. So we're gonna take a look at that and see how it looks. Oh, great, she looks wonderful. It's totally set, not going anywhere, so it's absolutely perfect. We're gonna set that aside. What I do wanna give you a heads up about though is you wanna be able to set this out before you serve it for about an hour. So you have to kind of prepare ahead of time. You can serve it right out of the fridge. I just find it has a better texture, easier to cut, etc. if it sets out for a bit. Okay, so we'll set that aside. We're gonna work on our coconut cream. Now I use actual coconut cream if you can find some. If you can't, coconut milk is just fine. Just keep in mind that you need to have the coconut milk or cream in the fridge overnight. If you're using coconut milk, make sure when you open the can that you're just taking that solidified part. That's going to make the best whip topping. So we're going to mix this for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then we're actually going to add our other ingredients after that. So I've let this whip up for about 3 to 5 minutes. You just have to watch the texture of what you're looking for. Let's take that out just a second. Kind of like that. It's got a little bit of peak. The other thing we want to do, I've already pre-measured the 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. We want to put that in. And the 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, pure vanilla extract. Put that in. And I get a little crazy. I didn't put it in the recipe, but I like to add a little dash of cinnamon just to add that little special kick. And we're going to blend that for just a second. And after that, we're going to put it on our pie and taste the pie. Yay! Okay, so we blended the pure maple syrup and the vanilla extract, pure vanilla extract, and a little bit of that cinnamon if you would like. And it looks great. It's got a bit of a peak, which is what you're looking for, okay? So we'll set that aside for just a second. So now what we're gonna do is the moment of truth with the spring foam pan. Just unclip it. You might actually have to take a knife and go around the edges of it just to make sure that it pops out absolutely perfectly. And then, voila! Look at that. Again, if you're using a regular pie shell, your pie is going to be a bit thicker than this, or you could also double the filling recipe and make it a bit thicker as well. So that's how it looks. And then what I'm going to do, don't laugh, I'm using a pizza cutter, but this is how I do it. So I basically am just gonna take that pizza cutter and literally cut it like a pizza. It's a pizza pecan pie. In as many pieces as you'd like, and it will crumble a little bit. Try to make it the best that you can. Perfect. So I have sliced it a bit, just like that. Okay, so next we're gonna plate it and actually taste it. All right, let's add our whipped topping to this beautiful piece of vegan pecan pie. So I'm just gonna take a spoon. You can make as much or as little as you'd like. Just put a big dollop on it, just like that. You could actually add just a titch of a nutmeg or cinnamon if you'd like. Totally up to you and totally optional. And next we're gonna bite into it. Yay! All right, let's see how this pecan pie and homemade vegan whipped topping turned out. I'm gonna take a bit of a bite of it. Taking a big bite actually. Wow, that actually tastes like a pecan pie, but healthier. So that's it on this week's of Let's Eat Healthy. Please feel free to leave a comment below if you make the dish. I'd love to hear back from you and tell me how it turned out for you. Until then, see you in the kitchen.